Hi, I'm Trish Triumpho Sullivan, and I'm going to talk to you today about assignment number 5, which is your self description. And this is a little bit of a challenge. It's kind of like doing a portrait, but you don't have to do it of a person, right? You're describing yourself in a still image with the representation of some objects. So you're going to pick some things that represent you. So you want your image to be able to shout out to the world, "Yo, it's me!" Okay, so let's get started. This is assignment number 5. Okay, and it's going to be one image. And we call it the self-description. So there's some things that you're going to need to do for this. And the most important thing is to make sure, or the most important things are to make sure that your technical parts of the photograph are good. So you want to make sure your lighting is good. And you want to make sure that your focus and depth of field is correct for the image. Okay, I want you to make sure that you pay attention to the background. So you're going to make sure your lighting, right, is direct and fill. Right, so it's fill light because you have to have direct to have fill. Okay, so your lighting should be fill. Okay, you're going to want to make sure that your focus is on your objects, right? So your focus is correct. We don't want them blurry, right? So your focus and your depth of field. Right? Do you need to have a narrow depth of field for this particular one, or do you need to have a wide depth of field? You need to decide, and you need to make it work with your camera. Okay, so this is where you're going to have your creativity, and I want you to pay attention to the background. Okay, the background is really important in this image. In a lot of ways, I want to ask you, I think it's important to isolate your objects. And when I say isolate, I mean make sure that the background isn't too busy. The only time that the background is important in this particular photograph is if it has a specific meaning about you, right? So what that means is, what I'm saying is that the background should only be obvious or shown if it tells something about you in the photograph. Okay, so it's only important if it's going to be about you. So otherwise, I want you to isolate your objects, the objects you pick. Right. So what you're going to do for this is you're going to choose 3 to 5 objects, and 3 is probably better. Right, that represent you. Right, 3 to 5. Don't put more than that in there, or it's going to be too busy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Right, so 3 to 5 objects that represent you. So choose carefully. Think about things that you might want someone to know about you, that would describe you and maybe even your personality. Do you like to dance? Do you like sports? If you like sports, which kind? Do you play a sport? And if you do play multiple sports, what's the most important one to you? Okay, so you're going to be careful to choose things that really represent you. Are you a student? Where do you work? Is your job like really a major part of your life, or is it just like you show up and you go home and it's not a big deal? So if your job is really important, let's say you're a healthcare worker, maybe a nurse or a doctor. Well, or even a phlebotomist, it doesn't matter. Maybe that's like a really important part of your life and it's something that tells a lot about you. You can show that by putting an object in that represents that part of your life. So let's say you're a nurse, you might use a stethoscope, right? If you are a gardener, you might put in a gardening tool of some sort, right? A shovel or a rake or a hoe, whatever, you know. So these aspects of your life are what you're trying to get across to the audience. So you want to pick some objects that represent you, right? So 3 to 5, not more than 3 to 5 objects. And think about how they go together. Think about color, right? Size, shape. Because one of the things you're going to be looking at in this is to make sure that you have good composition. You guys, muy importante from the assignment number 4 on. Good composition is extremely important for every assignment. So you're going to look, do the colors go well together? Are the sizes, you know, going to work? Are they similar shape? Because if they're similar shape, that means a repetition of shapes, which can be really pleasing to the eye. The same with color. If you have similar color scheme, that can be very pleasing to the eye, and the viewer will like it more, right? So you want to think about these objects that you can use to represent you. They can be gender neutral or they can be gender specific. In some cases, you might want to show that you're female or male, and there might be some clue as to that in the objects that you choose, okay? And of course, we can't always make assumptions about that, but it's pretty fun to see how people represent themselves. So when we look in at these photos in class, you're going to really enjoy to see how people are doing that. So, isolating the background. This is one of the most important things. Unless your background is vital to the photograph describing you, okay, you're going to want to isolate your background. So isolating your background means that you put something in the background that's a neutral color, say black or white or beige. It could be a color, but you don't want no patterns, okay? So you can use paper to put in the background. You can use fabric, a sheet or something like that. And what I normally recommend that you do is for this assignment, you can do it outdoors with the Sunny 16 rule, or I will allow you to do it indoors, but you're going to need to set it up properly, right? So what I normally recommend if you're going to do this indoors is you set up next to a window, right? A window that has light coming through it. Obviously, nighttime is not going to work, so you have to do this during the day, right? Because you need daylight. And you don't need direct light coming in. You just need to have a window. And you can set up, say, a table, or if the window's near a wall, you can use the wall back here as well. Or you can set up something, like a chair or something that you can drape over. If you had, let's say this was a corner of the room and you had a wall over here too, right? You could actually set up a table and you could tack or tape up a piece of fabric that would lay down on the table like this, right? So you would see it kind of like this, kind of covering up the table. So if that were a table, we'll put some legs on it here. And we can get the idea that that is a table, right? So you could take a piece of fabric and place it like that. So the light is coming in from the side. So here's the light. It would be coming in from the side of the objects. And you place your objects here. I'm just going to place some random shapes, right? Okay, so you'd place your objects there, and you would photograph from over here. So this would be where your camera would be at. Right, so you're looking at it from there. Then you're going to put a reflector over here on this side. So let me do a different color. We'll just, and for the reflector, you don't want it too bright, but we'll just say we have a reflector over here, right, that's reflecting the light back on. That's our fill light, okay? And remember, it can be as simple as a white piece of paper or cardboard. You can use the one of those windshield reflectors that you have for a car, or you can take aluminum foil, crumple it up, and then put it back out flat. Now, if you're indoors and you're using aluminum foil, use the shiny side. If you're outdoors, flip it and use the dull side, okay? Because you don't want it too bright, or it's going to be too bright. It's not going to be just filling in. It's going to be like taking over, okay? You still want that main light to be from a window. So if this was your window, right, here we go. Light's coming in, and it's hitting your subject, right? And then it bounces back from here on this, it bounces back and hits from this side as well, okay? So that's how you would do it for indoors, right? If you're shooting outdoors, right, it's going to be the same kind of thing. I want you to make sure it's for outdoors. We're going to make sure that it's early morning. Or late afternoon. And it's very important because if you're shooting outdoors, you want to make sure that the sun is coming. We'll just switch this up a little bit. You're going to make sure that the sun is coming from the side. So if you have the sun is over here, right? The sun is coming in from the side, low in the sky, right? And you're using your reflector over here to reflect the light back, right? You're going to set it up the same way, right? You'll take a piece of fabric or paper and drape it like this, so that the background is isolated. So you're shooting from over here, right? You've got light coming in from the side, and then it's reflected back, right? That's fill light. So you're going to remember, you're going to use fill light, right? And of course, it's always plus direct, because direct light you have to have for fill light, okay? You have to have that in order to do fill. So you're going to set it up like that, which means that the objects that you're using to describe yourself have to be small enough to fit on a table, okay? You're not going to describe yourself by shooting a photo of a car, okay? That's not going to work. You need to have a controlled light and a controlled background, right? So if you show the background, like if you don't want to, if you're not going to isolate, the background better have something to do with you, right? It better be something that's important to you, right? To describe you, to describe your personality, right? So that's what we're doing. That's what a self-description is. You're describing your personality and things about you that are important. Maybe it could be work, it could be sports, it could be what you like to do for fun, right? You like to go dancing for fun, or you like to go hiking for fun. There's so many different things you could do, but you need to pick those objects. So let me give you an example. Now I've shown you what I want. We want one image, right? And I want you to pay attention to the lighting, the focus and depth of field, okay? And the background. Very, very important that you pay attention to these things. And remember, I don't want it to be too busy, so only 3 to 5 objects. So if I were going to pick some objects for myself, I might do something like this, okay? So here I've got a couple of books, right? Because that says something about me. I have a paintbrush, and I have a camera. Now I'm also a teacher, so I might want to put, say, a dry erase marker in, just to like say what I do for a living, you know, as well as I have a bookstore right in downtown Salinas. So this might represent me. I might have my camera and a couple of books. Right? That makes sense? Okay, so now let's talk about why you want it to only have 3 to 5 objects. And the reason is, and I showed you plenty of examples that had way too many things in them. So the examples that I want you to use, I want you to keep it simple. Right? This is important. So this stands for keep it simple. And they used to say stupid, but we don't say stupid anymore. So I'll say keep it simple, silly. Right? Keep it simple. This is a really important concept for doing a project like this and for our other class assignments, because you'll see that the more that you keep it simple, the more striking your photograph will be. And if you look at the photographs that we show of famous photographers in the movies that you watch, you'll notice that the most striking photographs are also the simplest. Right? There's not a lot of stuff happening in the background. The focus is on the subject, and it's very powerful like that, right? So you can make this really powerful photograph by keeping it simple. If you have too much stuff going on, there's too much cacophony, like real disparate, different colors, shapes, too many things, it'll be too confusing for the viewer, and they won't even bother looking at it. They'll look at it and they'll be like, oh, it's too much going on. I'm not going to even bother. So this is a concept that's used in advertising, that if you notice advertisements, the simplest advertisements are the most powerful advertisements. So keeping it simple is something you need to do for your self-description. No more than 5 objects, seriously, okay? So think hard and really put some effort into which objects are going to represent you the best, right? And then you're going to light them, and you're going to make sure the background is good. So keeping it simple is really important, and we'll just go over this one more time. You're going to turn in one image, okay? You're going to pay attention to make sure there's we're going to do 3 to 5 objects, right, that represent you. Okay, so you're going to do 3 to 5 objects that represent you, and you are going to pay attention to lighting, and I told you what kind of lighting to use, and background. So that's it for this lecture. Join me the next time.